Hello and welcome to the Cheese Room on this Monday night. I am Becky, your host. Very pleased to have everybody with us on this fantastic day when we are top of the league, and we just said off air that we might mention it a fair few times during the show. Not that we're getting ahead of ourselves. I've got three great guests with me tonight. HG, great to see you again. How are you today?
Yeah, I only come on when we're top of the league on Mondays. That's basically the rule now. So we are top of the league, and it feels good to look down on everyone.
It absolutely does. And a long way to continue. Craig, hello. How are you today?
I am amazing, Becky. Great to be on a Monday night. It's been ages since I've been on A with you, Becky, and secondly on a Monday night. So it seems a perfect time to come on when we enter the international break, top of the league. So glad to be here. And I will just say as well, I am suffering from a slight cough. So if I have a coughing fit, I'll do my best to mute and spare you all the details.
Okay, no problem. And Liz, my mate Liz, you're on with me today. How are you today, Liz? Unmute yourself. Liz, you're on mute. Can you do it? You were talking before.
That's it.
There we go.
I'm there.
How are you, Liz?
I'm very happy because we're top of the league. And so, it's been great. It's been ages since I've been on here last. So it's really good to see everyone again. And nice to come back when we're top of the league.
So I reckon that's maybe 10 times we've mentioned it so far. And we've been going for 2 minutes and 7 seconds. This is going to be fun tonight, I can tell. And you've got your third kit on, haven't you, that I don't like still, but you've got it on. And who have you got on the back? Show everyone who's on the back.
And I've got on the back. Let me see.
Mickey.
The man himself.
Mickey van der Ven.
The man himself.
And you said you were going to wear it because it's lucky, isn't it? And you're going to keep wearing it.
Exactly. So I try and have a lucky shirt. And this one, it was a perfect one. I couldn't believe it, actually, when I saw it. When he scored, I thought, he's got my shirt on.
I actually really like that shirt. It looks really good, doesn't it? I know it's not many people are a fan of that, but I'm seeing Liz wear it as well. I'm tempted to go out and get it, to be honest. I'm all in.
Well, we've got rid of the curse now, haven't we? We've won in it rather than it just being the Fulham kit that was the Fulham kit that, we try not to remember that evening. But I tweeted on Saturday that it seems to start pink and then finishes a kind of toilet roll, kind of brown because of the sweat. And that's all I can describe it as. I still don't love it, even though we won and are top of the league wearing it. But no, it's not for me. Yeah. I've got my Ange Postecoglou kangaroo top on today. So me and Liz, we talked about this off show. We thought Liz is the Australian. I'll wear the Australian t-shirt and she can wear the Mickey van der Ven one. We've done a swap.
Of course, I forgot Liz is Aussie as well. Yes, really good point. Is that official Spurs merchandise, Becky, by the way?
No.
I didn't know Spurs were capitalising in Levy fashion on...
No, Sverker from Swedish Spurs gave it to me. So that's why I've got it. Oh, yeah, but it's a very similar font to Digital Spurs and the sort of stuff that they do. But I don't know where you got it from. Mm-hmm. Right, okay, let's get going. Like I said before, I think today's going to be fun. Okay, usual housekeeping for everyone in the comments and everyone watching at home. Please, if you can like and subscribe, that massively helps us. Please do drop comments in. HG is on comments tonight and he will put them up. There's a few things I'm going to ask later on that I need some help from people in the comments, so that would be fab. Right, let's get going. Lineups. Same lineup as it was Liverpool. HG, what did you make of the lineup?
Richie is not a winger, so I'm never massively happy to see him down there. We don't really have any other options, it seems, right now with Hill coming back to fitness and Sessegnon still injured and everyone else is injured basically. So Richie will play, but I don't love seeing him there because it just doesn't seem natural to him. But we keep on winning, and so there's no reason to really change things too much, and especially with the injuries. But I think that was the only thing I'm always looking to find another way of having that system, but without Richie. Like, what can we do that's a bit different? How can we maybe improve down that side? Because we have a bunch of players, but it's just, is Richie really the best one we have? But yeah, that was my only. I can't even say negative, but that was my main concern.
And Liz, we knew that Johnson was injured. I think Paul O'Keefe had said, and Ange had said that he would come back after the international break. So I know when I saw the lineup, I assumed that, like as HG said, Richarlison would play on the left. What did you make of him kind of being? We'll talk about how he kind of played in the game as we kind of come to it. But how did you kind of feel about him being back in the lineup?
Well, I don't think we've got any other choice at the moment. But I have to say, I feel sorry for Richarlison based on Saturday's game, because everyone has shooting over the bar, missing the target. All the strikers were doing that. That's why we needed Vicky van der Ven. But so I think it's a bit unfair to judge him on that, because he has finally scored for us. But I think we could do better in that position. But I think it's a bit harsh, everyone having to go at him for the weekend, because everyone was pretty bad, to be honest.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, won't we, about the kind of ins and outs of. But I get what you're kind of saying, is that, I saw a few people saying about Sonny didn't have his greatest game either, and but yeah, we'll get onto that. The thing that I liked about the lineup is that Hill was back in it, Lo Celso was back in it, and Valise, who had been in the lineup, hadn't he, the Liverpool game. So that was quite nice to think that we had those kind of options should we need them. As it ended up, we brought 5 subs on, but we didn't bring Lo Celso or Hill on. But at least we sort of felt we had that kind of option. Donnelly was there, wasn't he? But he didn't come on. But he's kind of being more kind of with the senior squad, so that was good. Ange had said that Dier was back again after being ill, so he was back in the squad and Phillips wasn't. But yeah, the thing I thought about it is that was probably, with Johnson injured, our strongest side, but our bench looked a little bit thin, didn't it? And this sort of idea that they're not necessarily established players, but having them in and around the first team, I think, certainly for the younger ones, is a good thing. So yeah, let's get into it then. So I watched it at home. Jack was at basketball. I was there by myself in like 25-degree weather. It was nuts. And I kind of, when it's like a game, like I showed last week, I've got like bits of paper with all my notes on, and I was writing things down. And before I'd even kind of got myself sorted and got a pen out, it seemed like Richarlison had that chance and it had gone over. HG, what did you make of that? And because that was after 2 minutes, what did you make of that miss?
I mean, like, instinctively, you think he should score, right? I think, I watching it live, I was disappointed he didn't. The ball's come in. He's got a long way to travel. He knows what he's got to do. It's not an instantaneous finish. But then I didn't realise until I saw the pictures after the game that the defender was holding him by the shirt as he's trying, which is a mitigating thing. You still think he should. But it was just one of those. It was awkward in the end, wasn't it? Like, he couldn't really get his head on it. Couldn't really get his foot on it. And just, it felt like you should be able to do it. But yeah, it was... I mean, after 2 minutes, I just thought, hey, if we're creating chances this easily, it should be a good day. So, I mean, I wasn't too annoyed at missing the first one because there's 88 minutes left. But it was still, you'd expect, I mean, he would expect to score it, and I think we should too, Yeah.
And, Craig, you kind of agree with that? I thought they didn't, on TNT, they didn't really make anything of the kind of pullback. And I think, like HC just said, watching it back, I don't think Richarlison makes enough of it either.
No.
What did you make of it all?
Well, I didn't notice it either. To be fair, in real time watching the game, it wasn't. I didn't even register it. It's only watching the replays later on in that day, I sort of noticed it. But I still think, even with that, he should have done better. I think is my gut feel on it. Yes, it's a mitigated circumstance, HG has said, but a £60 million striker, he should be doing better than that, and for that chance. And I think it's just a bit systematic of the way that it's going for him at the moment. It's just the luck is just not going his way, is it? And I think that's unfortunate at the moment. But yeah, it's not helping him. I know he scored his first goal, as Liz, you've said, but it doesn't help him when he misses those 2 opportunities so early in the match. It's got to do your confidence a bit of damage, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll kind of come to it later as well, but being subbed off as well because of the sending off, whether he would have been subbed off, he probably wouldn't have been subbed off that early, but he probably would have been subbed off. That isn't going to help his confidence. No. The next thing I've got written down here, Liz, is that we had a chance. Again, Richarlison had another one, didn't he, that was saved that came from Maddison. And then for me, which I thought was, again, you just don't understand how he missed, was Porro's one when Son kind of puts it through to him and he hits it wide. What did you make of that chance, Liz?
Yeah, I mean, that should have definitely gone in. I don't know where we were on that. I don't know. Maybe it was the pitch or something, but we had so many chances. And Porro normally, you would think, would score something in that area. I mean, he has massively improved since Postecoglou's become on board. I think he's a real talent. I've liked him from the get-go, but I think now he's really flourishing. So you would expect him to get that one in, certainly.
I think with all the ones that we've just sort of said, I think Alistair Gold said today on his show that something daft like in the first 10 minutes, Spurs had something like 98% possession. Is that they all seemed easier to score than they did to miss. And it was a little bit like Luton later on. It's almost like they were trying too hard and it was kind of trying to force these chances in. I think, Richarlison needs one of those ones, the one that he scored from Perisic's corner was a great header, but he needs one almost to just kind of go in off an ankle or something, just to kind of get it in the net and get going. I always think when a player ends up in the net and the ball does not end up in the net, something's gone wrong. Bearing back to like kids football, when kids do that, it's just the bemused look on his face that, Porro's, like you said, I think Porro's was a great chance, but it seemed easier to score. And he's on the ground, isn't he? Kind of thinking, I don't know what I've done there. But with Richarlison's, he just looked this sort of bemused, puzzled sort of, and I don't know whether people saw that at home as well. Is the second one, TNT goes straight to Ange, and he's you can see Ange is quite animated about it. For someone who's quite calm and quite sort of laid back about a lot of things, he was you could see he was quite frustrated. So I don't know how much patience Ange has got with Richarlison as the kind of season wears on.
I mean, this is the thing. So with the comment from Kentab is completely correct. I mean, like Richarlison should have scored. Like the first one, it's bouncing, it's a bit difficult. Second one, his first touch is great. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's played to him quite quickly. First touch out of his feet, and you're thinking, just pass it into the corner. Like you would imagine that Brazil's number 9 would be able to do that, and he just kicks it at goal, but that there's not enough care with the shot. And I mean, had he blasted it, it may well have gone in. It was almost like if you're going to side foot it, find the corner. Otherwise, just put your foot through it. And I'm just like, we've seen various goals this season, maybe from other teams more so, but they put their foot through the ball and the keeper can't get down to it in time. So it squirms under them and goes in. I think I saw one of the Newcastle goals against PSG was very similar to that, where he's got no real hope of scoring, so he just puts his foot through the ball and it goes in. It's all about that decision making. Like with Richie, that he's had various half chances, good chances, and he takes an extra touch but he doesn't need to. And you just think, don't try and be so cute. Actually, put your foot through the ball, and when you're 8 or 9 yards out, whatever it was, it's going to hit the keeper to be saved. And no keeper can save those; they can just get their body in the way. And it's a shame that second one. I think after having 2 good chances in 5 minutes, when we didn't take either, I'm already nervous that this is going to be one of those days, because Spurs don't create. I mean, we create chances, but not that easily and not that quickly. And when we don't take one, the history comes flooding back, and you think, is it going to happen again?
Yeah, and that's the kind of what I've written in the run sheet next, is that, as you would expect, Luton tightened up. They kind of changed formation a little bit, and they sort of came more into the game. And those chances, you start to get nearer to half time, and you're thinking, are we going to rue these chances that we didn't take? Is there going to be something that happens, some kind of turning point? And then the next thing that I've got kind of written down here is the 2 big incidents before half time. So on 38 minutes, we've got the ball kind of goes loose, doesn't it? And then Bissouma just sort of falls on top of the player and gets a book-in, which, you see those sort of book-ins. I don't necessarily think they were going to run away, but Bissouma was sort of all over the place, fell on top of him. And then from that free kick is where, certainly watching it for me at home, I didn't notice there was a foul in live play. The ball comes over, doesn't it? He heads it over, and it sort of then bounces back off, and then Lockyer kind of takes it in, and then gets kicked in the face, and then the ref sort of stops it. Craig, what did you make of that kind of the ref sort of disallowing it for the foul on Romero?
I think it was spot on. I think you couldn't not disallow the goal. I must admit, again, watching it at home, I didn't actually notice that foul initially. I thought it was a good goal, and I thought, oh, there we go, typical, Spursy returns after it. And I actually blamed myself and HG for what we said on the show on Wednesday when we talked about the game. But the I didn't see it at first. I was a bit petrified, but as soon as you saw that, it was obvious. In this day and age, you're not going to get away with that. Thankfully.
No, Liz, you agree with that?
Is this the one where it deflected off Romero?
Yeah, well, when they disallowed it, when he kind of heads it in and pushes Romero out the way.
It was offside anyway, so it wouldn't have been a goal anyway. So that's what I learned on Ref Watch this morning. It was offside anyway.
Do we think the refs would have seen it? Would they have suddenly pressed the wrong button or said the wrong thing?
That was the decision. It was an offside. Apparently,
wasn't it the foul? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So Romero.
Yeah, but I think when we've got that there, it, like we've all just sort of said, it was this almost like collective sigh of relief of, okay, we need to get ourselves sorted out here, because this isn't going to be, not that when we would think it would be a walkover, but I had people saying that they thought it was going to be like 4-0, 5-0, and I think the way we started, that could have possibly been the case, but like HG said, they could easily have had that goal, or and then it's a different proposition. A few minutes later, we get in. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, in those sorts of games, you need, where particularly the way we started in the first 5 minutes, 97% possession, just multiple shots on target, multiple passes into penetrative passes into the box. You've got to score an early goal or two early goals, because you then, the longer it goes on, teams like Luton are going to make it more difficult for us in a ground like Luton's ground, and then of course if luckily that goal didn't get that goal got disallowed, but if it had been allowed, all the pressure was on Spurs, and that was the problem in that. And the longer that game went on without us scoring, the more that pressure cooker built, and the expectation from the fans and the positivity of the home fans. So it's an interesting one, because I think Spurs always historically, going back to the Poch era, we always struggled against low block teams, didn't we? We always struggled to score goals and make those chances, and we'll inevitably lose 1-0 to a team, or it'd be a 0-0 draw or 0-0 draw. So it was really interesting. I wasn't necessarily worried even at them scoring the first goal, or thought scoring the first goal. I was obviously frustrated, but I always feel under Ange, there's going to be chances for us to get back into the game, particularly with the resilience that we as a team have shown so far this season. So it wasn't a particular worry, but I think going back to the point about, could it have been a 3 or 4-0 game? It actually could have been, because if we had scored that early goal, that first or second Richarlison chance, Luton would have had to have come out. They would have had to have gone for us, and that would have just played into our hands perfectly.
Yeah, so Bissouma's been booked. Most of us knew that he was on a fourth booking. They did say it over commentary as well. So he then misses the Fulham game, which is the first game on the Monday after the international break. And then in injury time, we kind of had spells of play, didn't we, where Maddison was trying to kind of break through. There was one I remember he got fouled and they had a free kick, and I sort of said, I'm looking forward to the first Maddison free kick, and then Bissouma just sort of runs through people and goes over and dives and simulation, and I haven't met any Spurs fans that say they don't agree with the decision. It was ridiculous from Bissouma what he was doing on a yellow card, sending off. HG, what did you make of all of that? Just on half time.
It was also a kind of half-assed dive. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was going to dive, I'd try and drag a leg. I wouldn't just fall to the floor.
Yeah,
I mean, it was. I'm almost surprised the referee gave it as a dive, because it didn't look like he was trying to con anyone. He just kind of fell over when he realised he wasn't going to have the ball anymore. But there's just no need for it, and it puts the team in a hole. And surely he knows that in advance. I mean, that's the bit that I find scary. Like making bad decisions. Okay, I can understand. People will do that when you're playing at 100 miles an hour in the Premier League. But when it's you on you, like when you are in control of it, it's not what anyone else is doing. It's just you. I find it very difficult to kind of reconcile that kind of choice. So, yeah, I think bearing in mind we'd missed all those chances, Luton had got back into it and actually put one in the net, even if it wasn't allowed, and then we're down to 10. I've seen this show before. We all have. Yeah. We all know. We all knew that given the fixtures this weekend, we go to Luton, we get 3 points. There's a decent chance we're going to finish, the weekend top of the league, right? With Arsenal playing City, you just thought, if City don't win, Arsenal would have to win by 2. I don't see that happening. But so you're obviously hoping and thinking ahead. But Spurs, the whole season, I feel like we've made it more difficult for ourselves than we need to. I'm sick of that already. Even though we're winning and we're doing it, I want us to improve our own decision making. The chances we created early on was fantastic. That was the football we think we're going to see more regularly. Yeah. But if we continue to hurt ourselves in the way that Bissouma did hurt the team, we will find it more difficult to continue with these victories.
Craig, what do you think Ange said at half time when they went in 0-0, 10 men?
I think he probably said, keep to the game plan, keep doing what we do. Try and we're man for man, we were better than them. I said in the group chat before, interestingly, on the group chat at half time, that Liverpool would still win this game. At that point, you would bank on Liverpool going out and winning that game, and it would be the test of us as a team if we could go out and continue to win that game. And I felt the way we do that is you continue to play the same way, and you continue to try and dominate the ball as much as we can and be ruthless in attack when we had those opportunities. We didn't quite see that. I don't think necessarily Ange went in at half time and said, we're going to defend for our lives in this half, and we're going to rely on Van de Ven and Romero to be outstanding to keep us a clean sheet and get us in the game. That's not his style, is it? But that's the way the game inevitably transpired.
Liz, so the substitution after half time is Højbjerg is brought on for Richarlison. So we talked kind of at the beginning of the show about Johnson being injured. Do you think that, before we come on to Højbjerg, do you think that Johnson will play instead of Richarlison after the international break? Do you think that Richarlison?
Well, I think he should.
Go on.
I think he should. I think he should. I mean, everyone's calling him the young Delhi or whatever, but I think we really could do with someone like that. And I think, given in mind that Richarlison, he's not quite clicked with everything. If he's still got his family issues that are going on in the background, maybe that doesn't help. I don't know. But I'm sure he'd still like to play. But definitely really excited about Johnson. So I would definitely get him straight back in there.
What did you make of, Liz, of Højbjerg's game?
Well, I quite liked. I quite liked the fact that Højbjerg and Perisic could sort of just be subbed on, and because they're so experienced, they've got level heads. They know that they've been with the team for a long time, and I do think they're real assets. I mean, I'm expecting them both to leave in the window or the next break because they're not getting full games, and I think they probably think that they deserve to be on for the whole game. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we lose them, and who else is going to be doing those roles. I mean, I know Ben comes on sometimes as well, Davies, and who's the other one? There's a couple of, so, but the level-headed, old, more experienced players, sometimes you need them on the pitch, and I think we definitely did at that point because we still hadn't scored a goal and we were playing Luton. No disrespect to Luton, but we should have been winning it from then on anyway.
We talked last week, I think, about how the amount of games Højbjerg has been on the pitch when Spurs have come back to win. So, you know, I may be wrong, but I think he was on the pitch at the Sheffield United. There's been games, you talked there about Perisic before he got injured, where they have been on at the end of the game. Davis, I think, remember him coming on to kind of shore things up, isn't it?
I mean, Davies scored against Man United. I know it wasn't given to him, I don't think, but like he was only got the second. And then Højbjerg and Perisic were both involved for the winner against Sheffield United. So they are massive parts of what we've done this season. And so Højbjerg may not start that many, but more often than not, he's the first choice to come on in midfield. And I think Skipp was on before him against Liverpool, which surprised me.
Right.
But Højbjerg, you know, he's kind of the best of the rest, and he's not a bad player. I think what frustrates me is that I still don't think he's a 6. So I don't like him being the Bissouma replacement because they're very different types of players. I think Højbjerg is better when he's going around the pitch and almost more of an 8. It may not be the way that Ange plays to have him roam in the way that Sarr does, but part of me thinks that actually that's a better switch, that Sarr would be better as the Bissouma replacement. And that Højbjerg could be, you know, because when he's come on, a lot of the time he's come on as the 8 to kind of, you know, help us control the ball. He's come on for Maddison and played in that position. So I still think that's Højbjerg's better role for us. But I don't think we can really consider selling him unless we know that Bentancur is fit, unless we really are okay with the idea of moving on, because like. It's tough to plan for a title challenge, right? Because we're Spurs and we've only played 20% of the season. But if you're going to do that, and if we're still, you know, there or thereabouts when Christmas comes around, I'm not really considering it. I'd rather we sent Skipp out on loan than sold Højbjerg, if I'm honest. If Bentancur's back, that's just how I feel about it. But he's been very important for us this season.
And there's lots of people putting in the chat about the AFCON and the players that we will lose for that, which does kind of coincide with the winter break. But yeah, certainly having that kind of, we've talked a lot all the season about, you know, what happens when Bentancur comes back. And then, you know, we're a couple of injuries away from, you know, having quite a lot of difficulty, which kind of then lends back to kind of Romero and Van de Ven and how brilliantly they've played and how solid they've been. But when one of those isn't playing, it's Dier, isn't it? Or it's Phillips. And that's when it's, you know, we haven't seen how that would be yet, thankfully, and hopefully we don't. But do you see what I mean? It's that kind of unknown, really.
And I just feel that, like, if it's January and we're mid-table, then fine, give minutes to the kids, right? Because we won't have too much to play for, probably. But if we do have stuff to play for, I don't see much value in selling Højbjerg in January when we get similar money in the summer, personally. I think there are other... Go on, Craig, sorry.
No, I agree completely, HG. But more importantly, as we've just alluded to, we have our squad is so thin anyway. So, you know, if you're going to sell a Højbjerg, we've got to be bringing in another player of equal or better quality. And there's no value in just bringing in a player of equal quality to replace someone you've just sold, when the value you're going to get, as HG has said, is exactly the same in the summer. So we may as well just keep Højbjerg in, unless there is someone better, like you say, longer term, that's going to come in and be the ultimate successor to Højbjerg in the squad. But yeah, for me, looking down, you know, you look down our squad and even on the bench from Saturday, we can't afford to sell anyone really in January. Is my mind. We got to try and bring some in if the right players are available, but they've got to be better than what we've got, and that's going to be tough to do in January, particularly when you're talking about centre halves. Because you look at the team now, who's going to come in and be accept being a third choice centre half to Van de Ven and Romero, which, looking at it, is what they're going to be. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect. I mean, there were rumours we were after Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth in the summer.
Yeah.
If that's true, I could see that happening. I think Bournemouth might say, "Hey, he doesn't play every game for us. He's going to be out of contract in 6 months. You can have him now if you want." But it does feel that, especially, it's weird because we've got centre halves that are young and that are close to the first team anyway. And you bring a third one in, then it makes it more difficult for Dorrington to play for the club. It makes it more difficult for Phillips to play for the club. And as much as I want them to only play when they're good enough, right? It's a catch-22. Like you get these young players in at 18, 19, they need games. So if we go a senior player route, then we have to loan those people out. They need that for their development. In the same way that next season, Devine could easily be one of the 8s in a rotation, but right now he needs games and he wouldn't be getting it at Spurs. And so, like, as much as we talk about the lack of strength in depth, I still feel like we've got good numbers. I still feel like if you've got your first 3 of Bissouma, Sarr, and Maddison, then you've still got Skipp, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, Bentancur. I mean, that's 7 midfielders that should all be fit really in the next 2 weeks. I don't know when Bentancur's coming back, but pretty soon. And down the left-hand side, you talked about, Brian Hill is now back fit. So, yeah, we've lost Perisic for the season. That hurts. We've lost Solomon for a couple of months. That hurts. But I would be looking at those areas in January, not so much into midfield. That's just me.
People are putting in the chat about Jota. I read somewhere on Twitter that said the other day that because we have registered 25 players, we can't take him even if he was on a free from Saudi Arabia.
So, what happens is,
right, isn't it?
Yes and no. So in January, when you can sign players, in January that 25 player thing doesn't exist anymore, right? In effect, you've got a full squad to pick from. You could have 35, and you can pick, because when the transfer window is open, then you don't have a numbered squad. It's only at the end of the transfer window that you have to name who your 25 is going to be. And so if Perisic is out for the season, well, then you just don't name him, right? Because he's not going to play for Spurs. And then you can bring Jota in and he can do it. And we've still got Lloris and Dier and other foreigners who probably won't play and may not be around in January. So I don't think it's impossible to bring Jota in January, because we'll just have a different 25 to the 25 we named now.
Right. Okay. Let's get back to the Saturday match. So Højbjerg comes on, and then almost instantaneously, Luton have a chance where it comes across, and Adebayo, he, which for those of you that know what I'm talking about, she said before the match when she did the lineups, didn't she, that Adebayo was playing for us. Anyway, Adebayo practically sat on the ball. Watching it back, you just think, again, a bit like with Richarlison's, how did he not score there? Why did he go with that foot? Why did he not go with his weaker foot? And then we found out afterwards, or I did, that he was one of the ones who was an Arsenal fan, and he was tweeting about how he was going to get Maddison early and he was going to influence the game and all of that. And that did make me laugh. Liz, what did you make of that chance? Were we lucky to get away with that?
I think we're lucky to get anything these days being Tottenham. But yeah, no. Yeah.
That goes in and it changes it a bit, doesn't it? They don't, like you said, they could kind of build a little bit from that. I just think we were asleep. We came out second half and just asleep.
I think Kerry's right.
Kerry,
I think, yeah, exactly. I think we kind of lost our way a bit at that point. I already knew that we'd won because I was out, so I didn't see it live. But otherwise I would have been really like, oh my God, we are not going to win this game at all the way we're playing now, because they had all the possession and I just couldn't see it happening. So, and then suddenly.
Yeah, and then almost like straight away we have like 3 consecutive corners down the other end, and then the goal, which is kind of Kulusevski to Maddison again. We've seen that quite a lot this season. It was a bit Arsenal-esque, wasn't it, when he kind of did Saka, runs to the byline and pulls it back to none other than Mickey van der Ven. Craig, what did you make of the goal?
Really, really good goal. Maddison doing what Maddison does best, and like you said, has done for us already this season. It was very similar to the Arsenal goal. I had a feeling we went through that spell. I think you just said it. There was sort of 2 or 3 consecutive corners, and you just felt one of these is going to fall. Going to be a bit of magic, a bit of quality for someone, and we'll get something out of it. And luckily, Madders produced the magic, and Van de Ven with a great finish. To be fair, wasn't it? It just let it roll across his body for like did a turn onto his left foot and in. So yeah, at that point, it was a bit against the. I don't know if it was against the runner player or not. Actually, was it against? I think we was riding our luck a bit at times, wasn't we? I think we benefited from the lack of quality of Luton, to be honest. And in another opponent, we may have been 1 or 2 down at that point. But in any respect, we kept plugging away. Maddison produced a bit of magic, which is what we're going to rely on a lot this season, and a great first goal for Van de Ven. So yeah, over the moon.
A lot of people are putting in chat, and I've seen a lot on Twitter, HD, about Kulusevski's kind of part to play in the goal, but kind of later on in the game as well. What did you make of Kulusevski's, Matt?
I think he just understood what needed to happen. He's very good at holding the ball up, especially, I mean, in his natural position, that's part of his job. He knows that. He's always been pretty good at that. But I remember when I watched it live, and as he puts the ball down to take the corner, like maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain it was still moving a little bit. It wasn't complete. So I was convinced that VAR was going to check this and was going to rule it out on this tiny, stupid technicality that the ball was kind of rolling as he kicks it to Maddison. But thankfully, they decided to take the Paul Merson route to the laws of the game and just ignore it. And we got away with it. But like, although it was great from Decky and it was great from Maddison, the movement from Van de Ven, when you're watching it from the camera angle, you just think he's standing there, right? And that Maddison's found him in space and he's poked it in. And then you look at the replay on the Tottenham Hotspur match day uncut or whatever it's called, and you see him move 2 or 3 yards back away from goal to find the space. And then he has the ability to actually move his feet quickly so he can get enough power on the shot. Like, I don't think many players would be able to do that. Most people would just whack it with their right foot because they would be right-footed. But in Van de Ven's case, he was able to find the space and get enough power. And as I said with Richie's shot earlier, like sometimes if you get enough power on it, it doesn't really matter where it goes. It wasn't in the corner. So it was a great goal, and Decky was a great part of that performance. I mean, especially when he was, when we were at the end defending in numbers, and he was the one up top by himself. He was able to hold the ball for Spurs then. It was, weirdly enough, one of Decky's better performances this season, despite the fact that we were under the cosh under the cosh is too strong. But in that second half, we didn't have as much of the ball as he would want, and he helped us hugely.
Yeah, I thought there were times that he was not Kane-like in the kind of scoring sense, but do you remember those days when Kane just used to hold the ball up on like the centre circle and wait to be fouled, or he would just hold the ball up until maybe somebody like Sarr would catch him up and that sort of thing. And I thought that, because we've seen it when he plays for Sweden, he does sort of play more in the middle. Yeah. That's the bit that I saw of him. I know there's been loads of stats about how he's run all this distance this year, and he's high up in all this kind of running and the chances that he's created. Maddison has created 25 chances this season so far, which is the most, and Kulusevski has created 21. And but for me, it was the kind of hold-up play and that kind of, that kind of intelligence that he's got. He's young, but he's got that kind of maturity as well. I thought that was really, kind of really underrated in the match. Let's move to kind of Romero. Liz, talk about how it's going with Romero and Mickey van der Ven this season, not just in the Luton game. I think the Luton game kind of shows it in more, but overall, what have you made of those two?
I think overall, they're just the perfect two we could have in the back. A lot of people are saying that Romero is improved this season, but I really believe that it's more that Romero in the last couple of seasons has had to do so much mopping up, and that's why he's been doing these kamikaze like fouls and stuff, whereas now he's got someone exactly who he needs. He's the perfect partnership for Romero, because Van der Ven's got the pace and he just adds something, and Romero can just do his job. And I love the fact that Van der Ven can learn from Romero because he's so experienced. According to Messi, he's the best defender in the world. So I just think they're the perfect back two. I'm just really excited about it, and I worry if one of them gets injured. I don't know who's around to sort of take that place, but right now I just think they're learning off of each other, and I think they're a really good complement to each other because they both add something different.
Yeah, H, do you agree with that?
No, I mean I do, and the compliment is the perfect thing, right? Romero is much more your attack defender. Like he wants to win the ball high up the pitch. Whereas Van der Ven is the complete opposite. Van der Ven is quite happy to allow you to run at him because he knows he's got the pace to deal with it, and he trusts himself in a one-on-one situation. Romero can do that, but he doesn't want to. Whereas Van der Ven is quite happy, and so when you have that kind of yin and yang, it works really well. And they're both comfortable going forward, and they can both pick a pass. And as we've seen this season, they're both scoring. I mean, it's crazy to think that our centre halves are contributing so much going forward. Romero scored on the opening day before he got injured. Van der Ven's now scored. Obviously, they've been responsible for a fair few of the goals we've conceded, whether it's an outstretched leg and a deflection here or a penalty there. But I feel as if if Romero is really committed to Spurs, because I still think there's a bit of a question mark. The better the better he does for Spurs, the more likely he may want to have another choice later on. But the two of them together for this season, hopefully next season as well, it's great. Van der Ven could stay a very long time. I still think Romero might want to go if he finds a better offer. But right now, the way that we play, we're not really concerned about our defending, which is insane to think about. How was it? 7 goals conceded, 8 goals conceded in 8 games. That's not very Spurs, is it really? And it's amazing. I love it.
That seems a sensible point to talk about Vicario, Craig. It was his 27th birthday on Saturday. What's your, because you haven't been on a show together for ages, what's your take on Vicario?
I think he's been proved to be not the cheap option. I think he's come in, he's been phenomenal, not just in his shot stopping abilities. I think there's a lot made of he parries a lot of balls out with his shot stopping from the highlight reels, but I don't think we see too much of that. I think he's obviously got the trust of the back four. They have complete trust in him. His shot stopping abilities is good. He's got good command of the box. He's very vocal. He's just been a real plus for me. I think when we talk about Van der Ven and Romero, you can't not talk about how well they've done in isolation of the fact that we've got Vicario in the nets, who's doing particularly well this season, and Porro and Udogie at fullbacks. It's the unit, isn't it? That whole back five, if you like, as a unit. For the first time, we've got a back four that I think everyone trusts and believes in. Probably the last time was when we had Danny Rose, Kyle Walker, Vertonghen and Alderweireld was the last back four where you would have with that same level of confidence that I've got in this back four. And that's saying something considering what we was talking about Porro not too long ago in his defensive ability. But yeah, I think a lot of that comes because of Vicario, the way that he commands his area, his quick distribution. He's been phenomenal. I'm well impressed with him, and I'm so pleased we got him and not Raya. So pleased.
Which I think was highlighted more yesterday when he had that kind of passing across his box, didn't he? And City nearly scored. That's lots of people on Twitter were going, yeah, I'm happy with the cheaper option. Yeah, I love him. My Jack was him.
Don't let Daniel hear anyone say this, by the way, right? Like I'm happy with the better option, right? The fact that he was less money, okay, that's great. But yeah, it's the fact that he fits us perfectly. And to think that 4 of the back 5 joined the club this year, right? We may have signed Udogie last year, but 4 of them have not played with each other until what? When did Van der Ven join? Early August, the week before the first game.
The week before the first game, yeah.
Yeah, he signed on a Wednesday, didn't he? I think.
It's absolutely crazy, and the thing is, it's a testament to them, but also to the way that Ange wants to play football, that they can come in, and it's not really been about partnerships at the back. Like the two of them work well together because they complement each other, but it hasn't taken time to develop that. We're not doing defending in a line as a back four. We just aren't. We're not really playing that way. I feel like the second half against Luton was the first time we've really seen almost a backs to the wall. We've just got to see this one out performance. Otherwise, we've kept it pretty similar. So I'm very excited that Porro and Romero are probably the older two, but they're both mid-20s. They're not old. So if you were to keep them around, you've got 3-4 seasons of that back five together easily.
Yeah, and I think HG, isn't it? I think, sorry, Becky, if we're going off on a bit of a tangent, but I think those examples of the players that we brought in and Vicario is a great example of, and you've got to give credit where credit is due, that our transfer dealings and our transfer choices have been better. Now, what you put that down to, whether that's, part of the scouting network that's been put in place with Perisic and what he set up and the way that, the data-led, which everything's data-led in football nowadays, but the data-led approach to selecting of players, whether it's down to whoever we have behind the scenes, I don't really know, but we are signing the right players now, and that's clear. And even the prospects that we're signing for the future, the Udoggy is a good example of that. Is coming straight away and has hit the ground running. He's built for the Premier League, isn't he, Udoggy? And I just think it's you've got to have confidence in what we're doing. And I think the signing of Vicario, when everyone else, majority of, there's not one fan I can remember who come on this show or who talked on social media or at the games that said Vicario is a better option than Raya. And Raya's the number one choice. He's the only choice for Tottenham. And look, we've stuck to our guns. We signed him, and now we've got a player that bleeds Spurs from the outside, doesn't he? He's brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. Lots of people are putting in the comment there about kind of how they gelled and that kind of team spirit. And I think, like we said before about the kind of more experienced ones, but at the end of the game again, Son's pushing Van de Ven to the away supporters like he pushed Richarlison. They're all sort of hugging each other. The kind of sharing of the armband round, because when Son and Maddison go off, Romero is obviously then captain, and it's that kind of, they're all sort of really looking out for each other, and it's not this sort of kind of individual idea of it. When they interviewed Mickey van der Ven after the game, he talked about how it was a team and how he was delighted to get his first goal for Spurs. But for him, it was a defender, it was the clean sheet. And he's then come out and said how much he likes playing with Romero, and just all this sort of, they're all sort of saying the right things. And then Ange interviewed and said that, it was the character that they showed at halftime when things changed. Like we said, they didn't change the kind of game plan too much. They continued to go as they were, which is what I said last week, which is exactly what Liverpool did. When Liverpool went down to 10 men, certainly I knew they would play exactly the same way, and they did. Obviously, they had to change it when they went down to 9 men, but it was good to see that we were continuing to do that. And that's why Craig said, even if Luton scored, you still had this idea that we would get a goal from somewhere and hopefully 2 goals from somewhere. So it's this kind of collective sort of idea that they're all kind of coming together. And yeah, I think, like you said, the recruitment is just sort of really, the players that we're getting are all really quick. They all seem really strong. They all seem to kind of be prepared to play in any position that they're being asked to. I just saw someone put in the chat about, maybe Porro will play in a different position against Fulham because we haven't got Bissouma. We just don't know. We've talked on this show about how, we just talked at the top of the show, Richarlison playing up front or left wing, and we've just got this, and I keep saying it every week, but we've got this kind of idea that we've got this flexibility now, and that has to give some credit to the recruitment.
But and I think it's about, and to be fair, it's what the club have said. It's what Alistair Golder's quoted on, when it was all kicking off in the summer and everyone was up in arms about we're not signing players, we're not spending enough money. It's about signing the right players. It's about being clear about the profile of player that we want, the attributes that we want from that particular player, and then you bring them in. And if that person costs us 15 million, it costs us 15 million. And Van der Ven's a great example of that, isn't he? I think again, when we all knew that Spurs were in the market for a left-sided centre back, I don't think HG, correct me if I'm wrong, Van der Ven was never one of those names that was mentioned as one of those centre backs. But we knew that it was going to be a centre back who had pace because of the high line that was going to play, someone with a left-sided centre back with pace. That was predominantly the profile. We've got Van der Ven, bargain money in the scheme of things. young prospects. He's already, what, 50 million, 60 million player already?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. Not that we're selling him, right?
No,
to anyone who,
obviously.
Obviously. Yeah. It's just... I feel like the only bad buy of the last 18 months is probably Richarlison, and most of that has not really been his fault. I mean, because most of the last season when he did play, he was playing on the right, which is somehow even worse than playing in the left in an Ange system. And so we've not got the best out of him, and it might be difficult to do so now that the system has changed. Like, I do think that, but we were talking about one good signing in 3 seasons. And now we're talking about one bad signing in 4 or 5 transfer windows. Makes a massive difference. I mean, like it's like we talked about the players, and the players are obviously important, but I still think the biggest reason we are where we are is Ange. And these players play like Ange would play. They act like Ange does. Like, Ange is not a ranter and a raver when we score, even, which you would kind of think he would be, but it's almost like, well, I knew that was going to happen. Like, he celebrates the moment rather than the meaning, and I like that so much about him. The team is calm in most situations. Like, nothing really seems to faze them. And granted, the biggest game we've had is Arsenal away, which usually phases a lot of Spurs players. We don't usually show up and play well at their ground, but we did show up. It didn't matter where we were playing. We could be playing anyone on any stage, and I feel like the players understand we can do this. And that has to come from Ange, because I don't think naturally all of those players are naturally the same. I feel like Ange is basically, this is who we are, this is what we do. And the players have adopted that mentality. And I mean, we're top of the league. We haven't said it for like half an hour. We are top of the league.
Seeing as we're top of the league,
sorry,
I was just going to add to that Ange always says, he said, if the players, I let them do, they go out there and they do their thing, and they sort of, but if things go wrong, or if something messes up, he said, that's me, that's my responsibility, not theirs. I take that on. No, they don't have to take it on. They can just go out and play their game. I'll take on the responsibility. So it almost lets the players off the hook, but it means that they are still excited. They're still wanting to play. They're wanting to run for Ange. Really, they're wanting to do it for Ange.
Which is what Maddison he's said that today, hasn't he? Maddison, I think he's been interviewed whilst on England duty. He goes, I know it's a cliche, but he makes you want to run through a wall for him. And then he said all the players feel like that. And I think a lot of it is down to Ange. It's his calmness. It's the way he doesn't throw anybody under the bus, which we've had from other players. He completely backs himself, and he's making the players back themselves. We just said then about Van de Ven and all these players like Porro, getting forward and saying, yeah, it's not maybe going to work every single time, but keep going at it and will. And kind of adding to that, I think the subs that we made on Saturday, the international breaks coming up, Maddison and Son went off. They were both sort of carrying knocks, and the players that came on, like Davis, Skipp. We talked before, Valise came on. I thought Valise looked really strong and kind of hungry when he came on. They all also buy into that. And I think they're probably the players that have had to make the changes because they would have got used to the way last year, and they're not necessarily new into it. And maybe there's a bit more of an adjustment for them to make.
I mean, you talked about Valise. Like, we've seen 10 minutes total, maybe not even that. Yeah. But even when you watch him on the pitch, I get this impression that he's not overawed by it, right? And he's a young kid who's moved halfway around the world, but in his mind, maybe, look, I've played Argentinian, top division football for a season and a half. I'm okay with men's football, right? Like, Luton away doesn't hold anything new for him, and so it's tough to not get excited, because normally, you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as bad as you think you are. That's kind of where I am most of the time. But it's you can't help but think we will only get better, and that's the scary part, because we should only get better.
Yeah.
And to see where we are and what we're doing now, knowing full well that 3 months from now we should be winning games 2-3-0 and creating even more chances than we are. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah. The style of play and the development of the staff and the transition from where we were for the last two and a half years, whatever it is, since Mourinho. I think from a player perspective, it's easier. It's not, you're not just having to adjust them tactically, you're having to adjust them mentally and get them to think differently. I don't think that's a problem in this system. Players want to play this way of football. They want to play in this type of system. They want to play with the ball. So you don't have to win that battle. I think when we transitioned from Pochettino to Mourinho to Conte, that was probably a harder transition to many ways, to get these players that have relatively played attacking football to go into this low block counter-attacking mentality. So I think to transition them out again is an easier ask, and I think that's evident in the fact that Ange has come in. It has been a quick start under Ange in this new style of play, and it doesn't feel like there's any at this point in time. It doesn't feel like there is any hang up or anything left to do in terms of that. It feels like we've made huge steps in terms of that change in philosophy and mentality within the team. And going back to Valise coming in, as exactly the same point. You're a young player. He's coming from playing where he's played. What an environment to come into. What a team to come into with the confidence that this team has and the family type theme. And everyone uses family, don't they, on social media, and the players talk about the family. They can come in and know they're not going to get hauled over the coals for a mistake, or they're not going to be controlled in terms of what they do with the ball, when they make the run, where they make the run. They've got the ability to come in, play with freedom, play with confidence, and just express themselves. So Valise, who looks, as you said, a promising talent, is going to thrive in these types of environments. The same that Van de Ven, the same as Porro and Bissouma, and everyone has so far this season. It's just phenomenal. And like you've just said, HG's just said, it's just a start, and that's what's so exciting.
Yeah. Which begs the question, a lot of people put in the comments about the recruitment's been really good. So today Spurs announced that we've got finally a technical director. They didn't call him a sporting director. Johan Langer, I'm reliably informed is how you say it. Does that HG slightly worry us that now with this recruitment with Paratici and his he was working in an advisory role, wasn't he, for a fair amount of time? The amount of players that he's brought in that have really transformed us. Is it slightly worrying that we're going in a slightly different direction now?
I don't know how different it is, I guess. I mean, if it's not Paratici making the call and someone else, then you would hope that they have similar ideas on how they make these decisions. I think I read something today where Langer has said previously that everything is data oriented to begin with, right? They're looking for players who do certain things, and then then they do the eye test after that. They want to see kind of what they're like as people, whether they are the stats based on how we're playing. Do you know what I mean? Like, so someone can end up with really good stats, but it could be based on the style of play. And if we don't play that style, then maybe they wouldn't be considered. But it's a concern because we've seen good players sign for Spurs, and you want that to continue, and you don't know if it will. But I have a feeling that they will have understood what works for Paratici. And there are still rumours that Paratici is still on a consultant basis part of the club, which then you start thinking, like, how many light bulbs do we need? But it's, again, as long as the players that come in are good, I don't really care who takes the credit. I don't really care who's doing it. I'm just happy. Like, I spent, 2 or 3 years proclaiming I could do better than the morons we had in charge, and I don't feel that way anymore. And that's nice, right? Because I don't know a lot. I watch a lot of football, but I don't know a huge amount. But I can look at these people who are being paid lots of money and think, yeah, off you go. I don't need. I can worry about supporting the team. I like that version, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got the international break now coming up. You're going to the game. Are you going to both games, Liz, or just the Australia game?
No, I'm just going to the Italy game. I only go to competitive games. Yeah. Really.
Okay, so you'll get then to see maybe Udogie and Vicario, won't you? Because they've been called up for the Italian squad based on kind of how they've performed. Yeah. So,
that will be really interesting.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Kerry's
Kerry's
but yawn because we're saying don't move at the international break, and also Kerry, I think the international break will feel even longer this time because our next game is on Fulham on the Monday night. So not even we've got the international break and we're back on the Saturday. Then we've got 2 more days to wait until the Monday night. But yeah, so Klinsmann has come out today and say he is not going to rest Sonny. He is going to. He's got important matches, but South Korea are both playing 2 friendlies, which I just find ridiculous. But I get it's a commercial thing as well. Hopefully he doesn't play. Like he said, like Anne said, didn't he? Or maybe Paul O'Keefe was saying that he was managing his injury last week and managing when he trains, and hopefully he carries on doing that with South Korea. I just find that when it's hard enough looking forward and sort of watching international break when their competitive fixtures is even worse when there's friendlies. I just think it's just such a waste. But anyhow, I'm just looking at things in the run sheet that I haven't mentioned. And that it says here that we are with our 20 points. It after 8 games, it is the best start since 1960. And I know BBC Match of the Day put up that thing, didn't they, about after 8 games with 20 points where teams have come in the past. And most of them have done very, very well. And if not, they've got top 4. So it's
yeah, I'd love to know which of the 2 teams that didn't. I saw that graphic and was like, who messed up? Was it Spurs at some point? It obviously wasn't Spurs because we've never done it before. But it does make you wonder, like, who's had a really good start and then still not made top 4.
I'm sure that did happen to us actually under Mourinho, didn't it?
And the thing is, like, I think like for the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've had very good starts, right? There was like we've won 7 out of 10 to begin with, or whatever it is. So I just it's weird how this can be the best. This can be the best start when it's 2 points better than last year. It's I don't really know what they're looking at. It all depends on like various games. Like after 6 games, it's the best, but after 7 games, it isn't, and then after 8 games, it is. All I care about is 3 points. I'm like, didn't we win like 13 in a row to start the double season in the league? Clearly, we're not going to do that. But as you said, we've got Fulham next at home. We've only played 3 games at home all season. Yeah, 3 out of 8.
I tweeted that yesterday when they were saying about how we were joint top with Arsenal when we're not joint top because we've scored more goals than them. That I retweeted somebody else's point to say that we had all those away games and we've only had 3 games at home, which then you get somebody goes, well, everybody plays everybody. But I said this in the summer, it does matter the order that you play the teams because we've got that hellish week, haven't we, in April, where I think we've got Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal and City, and I can't remember the order.
Yeah,
that does matter because injuries and suspensions and fatigue, whatever. So yes, everyone plays everybody, but the order you do play them in does massively have an impact. So I think interestingly with the NFL, I said this before, with the NFL this weekend, whether it was actually something that Levy asks for to have the fixtures away at this time of the year so they can get those in, because otherwise it should be home away, home away, home away. It shouldn't be 5 away and 3 at home. I don't really understand how that's happened.
And the funny thing is, like, it's not just us as well. I mean, obviously, because we've had 5 away, Arsenal have had 5 at home. So there's that's a clear difference. But Liverpool have had 5 away out of their 8. I think Brighton have had 5 at home out of their 8. Like, very few teams have had 4 and 4, which seems a bit weird. But when it comes to the next set of fixtures, because I'm such a nerd, I have looked into this. We have 2 and 2, but a lot of teams like Liverpool, I think they level things up. They have more home games in the next 4 than they do away ones. But at some point you get to play them, and I guess I'm happy that we've had 3 home games, but 2 of them have been big teams. Like Man United and Liverpool are not easy home games, and we've come through. And you hope that if the team gets better, that those home games will come in very handy. I mean, I've even had Arsenal fans saying, "Yeah, last year we were brilliant away, so it doesn't. Our home team playing 5 games, we don't care because because we were so good last year, we'll be good. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, you can't take last year's results and think that you're going to get them again.
No.
But
agree.
it's definitely clear that Spurs having 5 away games, it's a more difficult start than if you've had 5 at home. Doesn't really matter who you're playing. Home games should be an advantage.
So Liz, thinking about the next fixtures we've got coming up, we don't really leave the southeast, do we, until sort of end of November time, I think, when we play Wolves, because we've got quite, you would think on paper, winnable fixtures.
Yeah, and the pressure will be on. But, I think especially playing at home at the moment for us is pretty magic. The crowd are really behind the team this time, and they haven't been for a while. And I just think with this group of young players who feel like a family, they act like a family, I think having that crowd support, that home support, is really important. Because I think we make it even more now. And I was thinking the other day, because someone asked me why were you singing sort of like Postecoglou when you haven't even seen many games yet. And I just thought, well, I don't really know why. I think it was just the fact that we knew we had a different style of football to play, and it was more what we wanted, and we were just excited about having that. And so it wasn't even like, I don't think it was results. I don't think we loved Postecoglou before we had the results, almost. So we kind of were just willing it on. And I think that, not a stereo, but that sort of buzz sort of just fills our stadium at the moment. It's the loudest I've ever heard that new stadium anyway.
Yeah,
and I think
I agree.
I think that is like almost like an extra man. I hope I don't regret saying that now, but yeah. So I do think we've got. I just think we could. I don't know. We just feel invincible in there at the moment.
I saw a tweet, I think, on Friday to say that this time last year we had more. I think the same points, and you think that's nuts. The fact that we could, like HG said, we knew we could go top on Saturday. It's the way we're playing it, because if those things are exactly the same, the whole kind of feeling around Tottenham is completely different. People look forward to games. People who don't go to the games look forward to match of the day, and it's all this sort of, it's completely changed. And to think that we've got the same points that we had, like HG said, we do tend to start well. I think we've been up for Manager of the Month and Player of the Month, a lot in comparison to the rest of the season. So it is that common for us to start well. It's just what happens next. And I think, like you said, we've got Bentancur coming back. We've got players that will continue to kind of get used to the way that we're playing. We haven't got the European games to kind of factor in, and all of that you would hope is starting to come together. One thing I would say yesterday about the City Arsenal game is, God, it was a boring game. I was just watching it thinking, if this is the next, the two best teams. I know Liverpool are very strong, but really, if that's the way it is, then we should be kicking on from it, because it was just not what we and I know Sky really wanted to big up the Arsenal City thing, and it just really disappointed, I thought.
We talked about Spurs' squad depth earlier, right? I mean, I look at that Man City squad. They're missing 2 players. I mean, they're 2 best players, but they're missing 2 players, and they were, average. They didn't look any good at Arsenal. And Arsenal didn't play well either. It felt as if they were just trying to cancel each other out, or they were cancelling each other out. But you look at that and you do think, I'm not being funny, like I still don't think Spurs will win the league. Ask me again in March. If we have a chance, then we can talk about it. But if I'm looking at the teams that have played and have shown it previously, then I would be putting money on Liverpool, not Man City, not Arsenal. They might be ahead of Liverpool right now, but Liverpool have played better football. They've had more difficult games, and they're 3 points off it. That to me, you're looking at what teams are doing. Like Liverpool go into every game knowing they can win. Spurs seem to be going into this game believing they can actually play at least at the same level, which is new for us. We're not being defensive and waiting for negative things to happen almost. But Arsenal and City, Arsenal aren't as good this year as they were last. They spent all this money to replace Xhaka with Havertz, and now Havertz can't get in the team. So they know that they've made a mistake there already, I think. And City, they've spent money on Doku, and they've bought another couple of young players in. But I don't look at that City team and fear them. Maybe I should, but I don't. That they are not the behemoth they were last season. And so it's tough not to feel as if we're going to have maybe a 6-way race for a top 4 going into April, and then you might have a 3-way race for the title with 5 games to go. I genuinely think it's going to be very, very close this year, and I hope that we put ourselves in a position to be there or thereabouts going into that run of games you talked about, Becky, because that will be the key. But if we are there or thereabouts, which I think we could be, then who knows?
HD, could we?
No, my daughter's birthday is the end of March. No, my daughter's birthday is the end of March. Ask me then. Ask me at Easter. If we're within 5 points at Easter, yes, we could definitely, because we know we'll have those games to play where we can get those points back. But it's all about Spurs. Fulham at home, we can win that game. Palace away, we can win that game. Was it Chelsea after that?
Chelsea.
That's a massive game. But it's not tough to look at those fixtures and think Spurs are good enough to go there and win. And last year it felt like we were good enough, but we were kind of handicapping ourselves a little bit. This year it feels like we're actually getting more than the sum of the parts, and that is down to Ange.
Right, that seems like a good point to leave it there. While we're still top of the league and still happy about it. Thanks everybody for watching. If you haven't already, can you like and subscribe? We've got shows throughout the international break, and then I will be at the Fulham game. You're at the Fulham game, Liz. Yeah,
I am.
Craig, are you at the Fulham game?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So there might be a show on that night, but it won't involve us three.
No.
That's true. Yeah, we haven't really decided, but I suspect with Monday being when we're playing Mondays and Fridays, and the shows are on Mondays and Fridays, it may well be those awful watch along stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to Fulham more than usual because that's my first proper drinking game this season because it's half term. We're staying over. So it's like,
oh yes.
Oh dear.
Becky, you need to get a ticket for Palace away then as well, same week.
Well, it's Chelsea as well, and the Monday after we can't do that game because
half term is sure.
The week
Okay.
before. But anyway, right. HD, it's been wonderful being on with you again. Thank you for doing the comment. Great chatting with you again.
Yeah, I enjoy it as always because we're top.
Craig, thank you very much. Great to chat with you as well.
Yeah, loved it. It's great to be top of the league, not joint top of the league.
Score more goals,
Absolutely.
Arsenal, then you can talk. Score
Exactly,
more
yeah.
goals.
Come back when you can score more goals.
And Liz, another great show for you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back and talking about Spurs, our favourite thing. And we're top of the league. So what could be better? Apart from winning the league, but yeah.
Absolutely. And come on, you Spurs.
Yes.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
The outro thing. Oh, are we back?